Obscure reviewer. Rawr. G'day, folks. So I'm a big fan of the old school Japanese RPGs that were on the PlayStation 1 back in the 90s. Loved them. Used to play them all the time. Didn't own very many of them. I used to hire them from my video store on a weekend when I was off school, and just play the absolute shit out of them. The only bad thing is I spent way too much time playing them. Sometimes I'd forget to eat for the day. I've been like sun up till sundown, and that's never healthy. So don't ever play video games that long, folks. You must maintain a life in the real world. But the games themselves were fantastic. That's why they were so immersive. They pulled me right in. Whether it was the Final Fantasy series, mainly my introduction to Final Fantasy series was Final Fantasy VII. What a game. Still one of the greatest games I've ever played, just purely story-wise. I don't think I've ever played a game with so rich a story. The stakes were so high, so much tension was built, cared about all the characters. Just the set pieces were fantastic in the game. Oh, it was so immersive. Wasn't a big fan of Final Fantasy VIII. Couldn't really get too much into that one. But still, visually impressive game. Final Fantasy IX, same thing. Didn't get into the story, but visually impressive. But going back to those 90s Jap RPGs, mainly Final Fantasy VII is really one of the few ones with pre-rendered backgrounds that I enjoyed. Most of the time, I liked the ones with the old sprite graphics. They were fantastic. I think they were considered maybe 16-bit graphics, if I'm correct, because I'm pretty sure the PlayStation 1 was a 32-bit machine, and these were sort of games that were still carrying on from the older era, like Super Nintendo style graphics. So I think they were 16-bit. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, folks. But those older sprite graphic RPGs, they're the best. Love them. The Suikoden series, mind you, I called it Suikoden my entire life until I heard someone mention it correctly. Suikoden. So Suikoden 1 just blew my mind when I first played it. The story, amazing. The characters, amazing. The fact that you could recruit 108 characters, that in itself was fantastic, and made the game, the interest level of the game last right till the end. The fact that you could get your own castle, recruit an army, it was great. The mix of politics and fantasy was fantastic, and the whole military campaigns, the fact you could fight military battles in it was great. It's so heartfelt too. It contains one of the saddest moments I think I've ever witnessed in entertainment. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played the game, but if you play that game, you're going to get attached to some of the central characters, and it's going to lead to some emotions, let me just say that. And then that continues on to Suikoden 2, which is one of the best sequels of all time when it comes to games. I mean, can you think of a game that did it better, that took the feel, atmosphere, mood of the first game, and every element of that game that was fantastic? It took that, multiplied it, and made it better and on a bigger scale. You still got to get your own castle, but it was a bigger, better castle. You still got to recruit 108 characters, but they were even more interesting characters. The politics and the world were just as immersive, just as interesting. And that game was brilliant. Breath of Fire 3 was my introduction to the Breath of Fire series. That was a great little game. I played that before I ever played the Suikoden games. But that's a great little game with sort of starts off small scale, just from the perspective of the main character who doesn't know who he is or what he is, and then the game just slowly becomes a larger scale, stakes keep getting bigger sort of game. And that was a great mixture of magic and metamorphosis. You could turn into a dragon in it. It was pretty cool. That was a great game too. Alundra, that was one of the very first RPGs I played, but that was a was a real-time battle game, so it wasn't turn-based. I prefer turn-based battles because I'm a bit slow tactically. I need to sort of take my time to formulate my strategies and my attacks and defenses. That was a real-time battle game where you had to hack and slash at your enemies, but again, the look, feel, and atmosphere were spot on, fantastic in that older style of the sprite graphics and that. That was a great game. I never got to play Xenogears. Everyone has said Xenogears is one of the best old school sprite RPGs ever. I've never played it. I've never gotten a chance to get into it. Now that I've got children, I frankly don't have the time to play Jap RPGs like that for hours and hours and hours. But if I could go back in time, I'd have a crack at that one. Back when I was a single guy with lots of time on my hands. Actually, if I could go back in time, I probably would have started YouTube a lot sooner and gotten a bit of a head start. And I would have given myself some investing advice too, to also get off my ass and invest in Facebook, Google, YouTube. I mean, they're mostly owned by Google now anyway. But yeah. So that's about it. I want to expand on these RPGs in the future and do a deep dive into some of them and do videos on individual ones and give it a lot more detail and expand on it, but that's for a future time. So that's about it for this video, folks. Please like, share, and subscribe by hitting the old line in the top right corner. Leave a comment if you are so inclined. Take care, God bless, and I'll see yous later.